Hello and welcome. Wherever you are in the world today, thank you for joining us for the Rise Traveler, unpacking conversations of sustainable travel. We are here to talk to eco-minded and socially conscious travelers, diversity and inclusion specialists, wildlife conservationists, environmental activists, and anyone using travel as a way to uplift and inspire. Together, we will go a step beyond the Instagram-ready world of travel and take a look at how travel can be a source of growth and development for all people and all communities. This podcast is an extension of the Rise Travel Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit committed to empowering young travelers through educational programs, research, study tours, and scholarships. Visit risetravelinstitute.org to learn more. And now, here's your host, Amy Hager.
Hello, 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 wherever you are in the world today. Thank you for joining us. I am so excited to have Maria Hernandez on for a second episode. And so, if you missed our first conversation, please go back and listen before jumping into this one so that way it all makes sense. But thanks for coming back for a second round, Maria.
Happy to be here.
You just have so many great thoughts. We couldn't get it all in one episode. And so, as we kind of jump into our conversation today, when we think about your life experiences and the decisions that you've made in order to live your life to the fullest, I'm curious what your perspective is on how you see the future of travel, especially when it comes to the transgender community.
Oh, wow. You sure this isn't
Can,
going to be
can
four
you, yeah,
episodes?
can you shake that crystal ball and
Yeah.
see through it? I know it might be a little cloudy.
Yeah, I have thoughts and feelings. So first of all, I just want to kind of harken back to the fact that all this stuff with identification and political borders, it's all stuff that people made up, right? Whereas, each of our own identities and our lives and who we are as people, we're also making that up as we go. That is human existence. That is life. Every day you wake up and you make choices, right?
Yeah.
And ideally, those choices are going to be good for you and good for those around you, right? Um, I made choices, not always the right choices. I learned lessons. I'm not going to say they were the wrong choices,
We all learn lessons. That's the human experience.
right? We learn lessons and so forth. I chose to live my life as a transgender woman out. Um, I know that I am not a stealth trans woman, that nobody could ever tell that I'm trans. If you've ever met a trans woman, it's pretty obvious to most people when they meet me that I'm a trans woman.
Mhm.
I am personally okay with that because I am who I am.
Yeah,
I'm not trying not to be who I am.
I love
I
that.
just don't want to be marginalized further because of who I am.
Mm,
And unfortunately, that is in that Venn diagram, in that intersection of being transgender and dealing with all of the laws surrounding identification and travel and things like that,
mhm.
there's problems. So,
Yeah,
for example, um, in some states in the United States, you can have an X for your gender.
yeah.
So that represents the notion that I don't play this gender game. I'm not going to be M. I'm not going to be F. I'm
Mm,
going to be me. So I'm going to put an X there because
yeah,
why do you need to know if I'm male or female or whatever on my ID anyway? What matters is the number, right? Because
yeah.
you look up if I owe you taxes, if you look up if I've done committed crimes, things like that,
Right.
they look up your number. It doesn't matter, right? But anyway, the problem is that if you have an X on your identification in your state, you cannot use that towards points for your passport, right?
Right.
And so what that means is if you have an X on your driver's license, which is totally legal in some states, you can't get a federal ID that has that same marker. And
Hmm.
therefore, you can't leave the country,
Yeah.
right? And that's a decision about how you represent your identity. Um, preventing you literally from leaving the country because of the way things are set up,
Hmm.
right? At least legally,
Yeah.
right? People find ways to illegally traverse the globe, whatever, not getting into that. But for a law-abiding citizen who decides, I don't want to be labeled gender-wise, I just
Right.
want to be who I am. I think that should be okay. I don't see why that should prevent someone from traveling anywhere,
Yeah.
or from doing anything,
Yeah.
honestly. But it definitely could inhibit travel. And right now in the United States, that's a sort of an issue, depending on the state.
Right.
And we have these things, special circumstances in the US where we have town law, county law, state law,
Mm.
federal law, right? And any or all of those laws may be in effect at any given time,
Yeah.
right? Um, it's not only for identification and stuff, but it definitely comes in terms of that, right?
Right.
Um, I have a real ID,
Hmm.
right? What does that make a not a real ID? Does that make it a fake ID? I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think so because fake
There's
IDs, I know what fake
so
IDs,
many
that's
levels of IDs that we hold as Americans. And you're right. It's the different jurisdictions that decide what ID, what type they're gonna accept, they're not gonna accept. I hear you.
right. And so for travel's sake, it's a big deal,
Yeah.
right? Um, Now for the future, we got to talk about technology,
Hmm.
okay? And
Especially with your technology background. I knew we weren't gonna avoid the
yeah,
technology
we got
conversation.
to talk about the technology.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, the fact that we can fly, humans are not meant to fly, right? We don't have wings and stuff. We like,
Yeah.
but we figured out a way to do it, right? Isn't that amazing? We figured out a way to sail across oceans, right? That's technology.
Right.
Okay. It's amazing. I don't understand. Have you ever seen a cruise ship? How does it float? It's so big. That's science. That's technology, right?
Right.
And we could use that technology to get around the world, get around the solar system,
Hmm.
right? We've got man-made objects flying through space right now. Distances I can't even give you in ways that you'd comprehend, right? We
Right.
can do that. We can cross borders with
Yeah.
technology. Humans have proven that from the moon to Mars and beyond. Okay.
Right.
Um, we also use technology to help identify people
Hmm.
and categorize people
Yeah.
into desirable versus undesirable,
Hmm.
right? Again, we talked already about how Spain wants privileged people like myself and my wife to come to Spain. But
Right.
how do they know that we are privileged enough to not be a burden for their
Mm.
country?
Right.
What happens is they look up my number in a
Hmm.
computer,
Right.
right? Um, Used to just all be on paper, but we figured out how to use technology to make it easier, right?
Yeah.
And technology making it easier is one angle, right? Look at things like TSA PreCheck in the United States, global entry, clear. I think there's even more beyond that. But
Right.
these are special sort of things that you can get if you're privileged, right?
Mhm.
Privileged meaning you can afford it. You have all your identification, right? Which again costs money,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
A lot of
There's a
these
barrier.
things there's a pillar of privilege that you have to be on, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to have a home address. You have to have this, you have to have that, you have to have this. Like you can't have all of this ID unless you have property,
Yeah. That's a
credit,
good point.
things like that, right? So again, just want to make sure that that is I know where I'm speaking from a that I'm speaking from a position of privilege, right?
Right.
So if you have the privilege, technology can make it easier for you to
Mhm.
travel. You can skip the security lines
Right.
by them. They just look up your number. They look at your face.
Right.
They look at your fingerprints, right? And these biometrics combined with computers, right, and the
Mhm.
technology of the internet allows for super easy travel because all the people that need to agree that you're okay
Yeah.
can get all of the information that they need to base that decision on, which again is nothing about who you are as a person,
Right.
right? But
Right.
they can all agree on what the computer is telling them about you quicker, easier, faster than ever, right?
Right.
Because of technology. There's also privacy, though, right? And
Hmm.
privacy is one of the things that is always sort of traded for
Right.
security,
Yeah.
right? Regulation of everything and anything
Hmm.
goes too far, okay?
Mm.
Now,
Okay.
imagine me agreeing with gun control people, right? Imagine. It's crazy because we disagree on so many things.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? Who's allowed to have a gun? Well, you got to go through this process. I got to look at your number. And then I
Mhm.
got to put your number in the computer. And then question marks, question marks, question marks. And then you can have a gun.
Okay.
Okay. So what is happening there, first of all? I don't know. Question marks.
Hmm.
And it doesn't prevent gun violence.
Hmm. Yeah.
It doesn't. Right? Now,
Yeah.
some people say we should make it more restrictive. But
Right.
here's the thing. I have only ever once in my life had an illegal gun pointed at me,
Mm.
but I was getting mugged at gunpoint, right? Oh, wait, no, twice. Sorry, I lied. Twice. Okay.
Yeah.
That's 5 times I had 100% legal on the books held by a police officer's gun pointed at me for no reason, right?
Yeah.
They were licensed, they were authorized, right?
Right.
Bad things. I have trauma from that, right? So, what did all the regulation do for me there? The good
Mhm.
guys have guns, right? So, what happened? Nothing good for me.
Right.
I still was scared
Yeah.
by the police threatening my life for no reason. And I've still been robbed at gunpoint twice.
Right.
So where's the law? How does that help anybody? It's not helping me, right? And so we give up the privacy by saying, look me up. Here's all my information. Do a background check. You
Hmm.
could ask everybody about me. You could go and look, see where I've lived and see what I've done and check all these things. And there's all of that is given up, right? We give all of that up now without even thinking about it because we love social media. We get on there and we tell people what we ate for breakfast. We tell people what we think about this and what we think about that, and freedom
Right.
of speech and all of that is all great. But there used to be a point in time where you didn't know anything about anybody until you learned about them. And
Right.
learning about somebody meant like talking to them or talking to their family.
Like
And
there was a
like
real human to human interaction.
there was a connection, right? There
Yeah.
was a connection. And all of that kind of just comes for free now, right?
Yeah.
And it turns out that technology makes it very easy to amass all of this stuff. It's
Right.
great for marketing, right? It's
Yep.
great for, you know, targeted ads.
Hmm.
I want to send an ad to women. Who's a woman? Uh-oh.
Right.
Women 35 to 40 who are
Right.
planning to have kids but haven't had kids and live in New York and make this much money. You can do that. You can do it on
Right.
Facebook, you can do it on Google, and you can really pinpoint these demographics down to a T, right?
Right.
All of this information about us and about our likes and dislikes and where we lean politically and all of this stuff used to be private
Yeah.
unless other very specific tangible things happened.
Right.
And now all of that stuff is largely
Okay.
public. And then there's even more that if you go a little bit deeper, there's stuff that you don't know is public that's public,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And what do we get for that, right? We get
Right.
targeted ads and we get people hack into credit agencies and steal all of that information that was supposed to be private to begin
Mhm.
with that we didn't know they were tracking about us, but oh yeah, they're tracking it. they were supposed to keep it safe, but they didn't keep it safe.
Yeah.
And that right there is the whole thing. If we abolish privacy
Hmm.
by taking away encryption, by making everything public,
Hmm.
in order for there, like to say that that's safe, right?
Right.
That's like if everyone has a gun, then everyone is safer because
We all have
you
guns.
might get shot,
Mm. Yeah.
right? Um, that's not safety to me, right? Abolishing privacy for the sake of so-called safety, that's not safety to me.
Right.
That's just that's it's control, right? And it's control that could be used by people that are not good people. Now, I'm not going to be sit here on this podcast and say every politician is a horrible person and they all want the
Right.
destruction of humanity. But the fact is that some people are good people and some people are less than.
Right.
And those people can restrict things like travel or what you're allowed to carry on your person
Right.
for their own purposes, right?
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so then you end up with, why can't you bring tomatoes into this country? Well, it turns out that this guy owns a tomato company, and if you bring tomatoes in, then he doesn't get his cut from the tomato company that's supposed to do the importing, and that's why you can't bring tomatoes into the country.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with anything else, maybe, right?
Right.
Um, and
So,
any people, yeah, identity theft, right?
right.
Identity theft and travel is a whole other thing, right?
Yeah.
When I got detained because there are so many Maria Hernandezes, how
Right.
were they really going to determine that I was really the Maria Hernandez that I said I was? Were they going to call in all the other Maria Hernandezes and
Yeah.
right? So that's that all of this stuff doesn't really help towards more safety, but that is where the future of travel is going, right? Technology and privacy together, combined with the decisions that are made about who is desirable and
Mm-hmm.
who is less than desirable.
Mm.
What if you couldn't travel because of your credit score?
Oh,
Well,
that's
guess what?
interesting.
Guess what? You can't travel if your credit score is too low. And I'll tell you why, right? Because you can't get plane tickets, because you
Mm.
can't buy plane tickets with cash. Because if you try to buy plane tickets with cash, they think
Right.
that you're doing something nefarious,
Yeah.
right? It's like there, your
It's a
credit score means a
cycle.
lot, right? It's like
Yeah.
things like that can prevent you from exploring the
Having
world,
access.
having access to other cultures,
Right.
trying different foods, learning other languages. And all of that is in question marks for the future.
Yeah.
Easier, faster, with more potential for restriction, actually, even though things seem to be more open with the internet.
Hmm.
It's deceitfully actually more controlling and more restrictive.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that people realize that international travel is basically good for everybody.
Hmm.
And I hope that one day humans just take care of each other and we don't have to worry about this land fighting that land or whatever. But
Right.
that's a dream, you
Yeah.
know. So I'm gonna keep dreaming that dream.
I'm okay. And I think we do need people to hold that space to keep continuing to hold those dreams. So, and I could see that future of travel being different than what we're experiencing right now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
as we kind of wrap up the conversation, you've shared a lot of stories and a lot about you, but what legacy do you want to leave behind in this world?
Yeah, I want to have a positive impact on people. I want each interaction I have with someone to benefit us both. And it doesn't have to be financially or in some big, tangible, obvious way.
Yeah.
But there's ways that we can enhance each other's lives just by having a conversation, just by showing each other kindness. And that's that's the thing for me. I love teaching people. I love helping people learn things
Hmm.
about themselves, about nature, about whatever it is that I can. And that's what I want. That's what I want. I don't need a memorial plaque somewhere. I don't need a statue or
Yeah.
a scholarship named after me or something. I just need those little bits of me that I've left with people to make a difference in their lives. And I hope that that happens,
Yeah.
as much as
I can see
possible.
that. I can definitely see that for you. So, well, thank you for coming on and sharing all of your stories and your experiences. And, we're all cheering you on and wishing you well in this next chapter and next adventure as you make this move.
Thank you so much, Amy, for having me on.
Yeah, definitely. And that wraps up our season, actually. And so, if this really hits home for you and you're excited to hear more, I really want to encourage you to subscribe, like, and comment. And you can always follow us at the Rise Travel Institute on Facebook and Instagram. And just remember that here at the Rise Travel Institute, we believe conscious travel can help us create a more just and equitable world. And so if you're a college student planning on a study abroad trip, maybe a tourism professional who wants to create a more equitable and inclusive industry, or really anyone who's currently traveling the world and wants to understand how to travel in a sustainable way, I encourage you to head on over to risetravelinstitute.org for more information on our educational programs. And we'll be back soon with another season. So until then, keep roaming, keep learning, and continue to be a Rise Traveler. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank